Good one.
Dick and John, can we just mention what part Lesher Foundation, Contra Costa Times played in this?
When we first started, well, we were first looking for the first announcements that we needed to start fundraising and so forth. We didn't really know well how much it was going to cost. We didn't know if any services were going to be donated and so forth. And so we came up with that number, the $100,000 that Ron mentioned. And right then the Lesher Foundation said, we got a matching grant of $50,000. You only have to raise $50,000.
Yeah.
Boy, was that a nice gift from the Lesher Foundation. Yeah, there are so many things like that where you know, Ron mentioned it, I've mentioned it, where people just came out of the woodwork to give us a hand, saying, I want to be part of this project. This is too important. Ron also said, we all started a little bit naive. When Dick and I first went up there, I said, geez, all we need is a crane. We can lower that thing in the back of my pickup truck.
Oh, yeah, right.
Probably put it in my garage, you know. Little did we know. That's really the conversation that the two of us had. And, you know, I said, hey, look, I've got a facility in my garage to spray paint and so forth. We can take care of that. No big deal. We had no idea the impact that it would have, and the people that helped us out. Part of the expense is briefly mentioned in there. Because it's a historic artifact on a historic building owned by the state of California, it became a different kind of a project than just repairing a culvert or something like this. It became a different kind of project according to the state. And that was partly why, to give them credit, they actually didn't have on the books any sort of avenue or regulation that would allow a nonprofit to do this project. It was going to have to go out to bid to the various architectural restoration firms and so forth. So you think, you know, we came up with a $100,000 budget. It wasn't going to be anywhere near that if they had just farmed it out. And of course, they couldn't anyway. They had no money to be doing that kind of work. The state park system is, as we all know, been in the doldrums for decades, really. So had Save Mont Diablo not been able to step up and the community step up, this project would not have happened at all. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and for Assemblywoman Joan Buchanan to write AB 1916,
Yeah.
and it just sailed right through. Nobody opposed it.
Yeah.
To allow Save Mont Diablo
Yeah,
to be first.
Joan, there's no question. I kind of wish she was here tonight. Joan was integral to the success of the project.
John, so did it cost $100,000 with all the volunteer and everything, or not?
No, it did not. So we did raise all that money. At the time, there were two significant expenses that we were worried about. The first one was the expense of the crane. I mean, those things are big bucks. And they got to drive up to the summit. They're going to charge the whole time they're, you know, and so on, twice. And that was the first one. And the second one was about the need for a conservator. This is a position that the state contracts out to various architectural restoration firms for the historic buildings and other structures and so forth, and artworks as well that the state has. And we met with a conservator who was mainly versed in artwork. In fact, he did much of the restoration of the murals on Coit Tower, or inside Coit
He was
Tower.
bidding on that. I don't know if he got it, but he was bidding.
Yeah, no, he did it.
Did he?
Yeah. We met with him, and he was a nice fellow and so forth, very professional. And he was also not in his field, although I don't think he was quite willing to admit it. He did say artwork was his main thing, but you know, he could do this kind of work. And what ultimately came about, he said he would charge us $30,000 to be our advisor. That was the first thing. And the second thing
To
is,
start with.
if it took more hours than $30,000 worth, every additional hour would be $250. But if we took less, it would still be $30,000. And, you know, and that's right when Ron was bugging us for a number. Come on, I got to tell these people something. And so we said, well, we got this, and you know, materials and stuff. Okay, $100,000. And that became the number for us to raise. And again, as Kathleen says, the Lesher Foundation came through in spades. Yes, we do have money left in a kitty for
Trust fund.
further. Yes,
For
it's
future.
a restricted fund on Save on Diablo's books. We cannot spend it on, would not, but cannot spend it on anything else. And so there's money ready if there's further work to be done. There's money if the state park were really in great shape, we could transfer the money to them, and they have a comparable ability to have a restricted fund to take care of the beacon too. But they're just, I'm sorry to say, they're just not ready to be taking that on. And obviously Save on Diablo is. So the money is sitting, waiting for another expense. So if we need to
It
do
is getting close to time to repaint. Seriously.
Well, it's like the Bay Bridge. By the time you finish,
Yeah.
it's time to start over.
But you wouldn't have to take it down to repaint it, would you?
No.
No,
No.
And the crane, Shell Oil didn't charge anything for the crane, did they?
No, they
it's
did not.
donated.
It was all free.
No, Shell was just great to work with. Bob Payne told the story about the bearing. It's one of the PowerPoint slides that I deleted because I also like to tell that story. And I whispered to Dick over here, I'm still astounded that they had a new bearing on the shelf.
Yeah.
They
From
called us up and
1928.
said, they not only said, we got a bearing on the shelf, do you want sealed or not sealed? And at the time, it's a design flaw in the beacon. There is no way to service that big bearing. The bearing is this big around. There's no way to service the bearing without lifting that whole thing off to get to it. There's no way to add any grease or anything. And those that have been up there know that there is a sea of earwigs at the summit. I mean, we just encountered thousands of earwigs that have been squashed by the open bearing.
Well, Bert, didn't you go up in like October? You'd start in October to go up to see if it's gonna start rotating, and you would disrupt all the nice little earwigs that have been there previously.
Lots of earwigs.
But I would like to make one remark, and that is, I think you all know or understand that I was a park ranger on Mount Diablo from 75 to 93, and I just kind of fell into the job. They'd say, okay, well, on December 7th, somebody needs to go up and turn the light on, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So obviously, I didn't even realize in the early days the significance of the beacon to the Pearl Harbor veterans. And in the early days, it was a much larger group. It was some 30 or 40 survivors that, of course, over the years, their numbers dwindled. But I didn't realize how important it was until one day I went up and I had checked the light out, and on my way back down, I saw that the light wasn't on, and I went back up and found out what was wrong with it and turned it back on. And over the years, I did develop a habit of going up, usually a day or two before, and checking on the light, and the electrics. Imagine any kind of 1928 vintage electrical appliance. The electrics were not reliable, so I eventually rewired the lamp sockets and ran new wiring to the light, and that made it a little bit more reliable. And then we got down to the point, I'm going to tell a story that Dick mentioned here. we got down to the point where there was only one of the original light bulbs left. And it was a 32-volt bulb. This is long before computers. I phoned around, I tried to find out, it said an aircraft beacon, and I happened to be at a garage sale, and here was a light.
Oh.
And I looked at it, and I thought, my gosh, that looks like the light from the Mount Diablo beacon. And I said, how much do you want for this? And they said $1. And I took it, and I found out that it fit exactly in the light, and it said on it, projection lamp. And that was the clue. A projection lamp was a substitute for the beacon light. And so over the years, we replaced the projection lamp with a 115-volt bulb. And when I was giving a talk at one of the Pearl Harbor events, I mentioned, I said, I'm not sure that I should say this, but there is only one manufacturer of this bulb in the world, Ushio Electronics of Tokyo, Japan. So, I personally, I'm sure many of you were very moved by seeing the film tonight. It's always become a very emotional thing for me. I am deeply grateful that Dick and John happened to fall into the job of overseeing the rebuilding, and that the light will be reliable for as long as we're here.
Thank you.
One last thing. Obviously, the light is lighted every December 7th. As you saw, it was originally up at the summit, and after the restoration, that first December 7th, the weather forecast was really bad. We also knew there were going to be a lot of people because of all the publicity about the restoration, and so Dick and I both scrambled to say we need another location that's down, somewhere around Walnut Creek or something like that. And we got very lucky. We went to Cal State East Bay, the Concord campus, and they did this, let me make a few phone calls. And the next night we met there, and it just worked out perfect. That's where the lighting was, and the last final shot of the beacon flashing. That was from CSUEB. And we've been there ever since. Cal State East Bay has now gotten behind the event, very much so. They've been very supportive. And so come on out. We'll be lighting the beacon certainly on December 7th, right before 5 o'clock.
And you're in a nice warm room.
And it's warm.
Yes. If I may just say something right now, my chapter, Sons and Daughters Pearl Harbor Survivors Walnut Creek chapter, I currently have 11 Pearl Harbor survivors still living within the Bay Area. This is a project that these men, and of course when you guys started this project, I had more Pearl Harbor survivors that were living, but it is what it is. This is something that they never thought they would live long enough to see it come to fruition. And I can't tell you how grateful my boys, my Pearl Harbor survivors, are to these guys with Save Mount Diablo and for everyone that made this happen. Especially to Bert that tromped through the snow going up to the mountain a few years in a row to make sure that that light was lit, that beacon was lit in honor of our Pearl Harbor survivors. The dedication has just been overwhelming, and please come out December 7th to honor our guys from the greatest generation, our Pearl Harbor survivors, while we still have them living with us. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us an excuse to relive this.